founded on the Quaker idea that everybody, including convicts, has a certain substrate of good, or an inner light is what it was termed then. So the founding society here, they were called the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons. They still exist today. They're actually called the Pennsylvania Prison Society now, which I think is a wise name change. So they think we're going to found a prison with the purpose of reforming these inmates, with the purpose of polishing off those inner lights. They think that penitence will lead to reform, and that solitude will lead to penitence. Once we get inside, we'll look at the reasons why. But really, at the outset, we've got this tidy equation that solitude leads to penitence, leads to reform. Oh, by the way, are you guys all down with the idea of penitence? If it's a bit shaky, to repent is to regret whatever infraction you've committed to such a degree that you want to change for the better. So that's the whole idea. But all this really does beg the question, like, how do you go about building a penitentiary? Now, in 1829, Eastern State was both the biggest public building in America. It's almost 12 acres, and it was the most expensive. Cost over $800,000 to build this place, which is huge, especially it was proportional to Pennsylvania's state budget. It was the U.S. Capitol that superseded it just a bit later in terms of size and cost. But those $800,000 did by a pretty famous architect, John Haviland. He did other stuff around Philly, like mostly along Broad Street, as well as the Walnut Street Theater, I believe. And he was able to use trained masons and haul up a bunch of Wissahick and schist from various parts of the area. Now, there are three main parts of the building that we need to talk about. Those include the facade and the escape-proofness, and thirdly, the cell blocks. As for the facade, the front of the building, either from like looking around here or what you saw outside or the pictures up there, well, what type of building is it supposed to resemble?
A fortress.
Yeah, a castle. Hold that thought. You're thinking about the inside.
Real was close, though.
So that's right. The outside is supposed to look like a castle. I mean, we've got all these towers, that high octagonal one over there, those big boxy ones. We've got the corner towers as well. The arrow-slit windows up front too, but now that you guys are in here, you can see these castle features are simply cosmetic. Well, one thing you can't see is if you're going to stand on top of that high tower, the crenellations would hardly hit your knees, so, I mean, useless for defense, right? The rest of the towers are not much better. You can see those corner ones are scooped out. The brick box that added up there, that came about 100 years later for surveillance. And finally, sorry?
Basically, it's just a facade.
It is exactly a facade. And another thing, no arrow-slit windows on this side of the wall either. So, the reason why it looks like a castle acts as that kind of facade, I think is kind of interesting. If you look at those pictures, you can see that it wasn't Philly around here back when this place had opened. On top of a bright, high grassy hill, cows out front instead of cars. Philly proper was about 2 miles to the southeast, kind of concentrated more or less where the Liberty Bell is today. Have any of you been to the Liberty Bell? Or those? I know a lot of Philadelphians haven't actually been, but everybody knows where it is anyway. So yeah, imagine then, you're in 19th century Philadelphia and kind of down that way. You're looking up north, there's a big grassy hill, a giant castle on top of it looming over you. Is that a comforting sight? No.
You don't do any wrong because you're going there.
Yeah, you got it, exactly. It's built on purpose to be frightening, to make people think, oh boy, what an awful looking building. I better stay on the right side of the law so nobody puts me in there. Now that was especially relevant since a bunch of folks had just emigrated from places in Europe where there were real castles and real torture that had occurred therein. So, maybe they didn't understand English or legal codes that great already, but they were well versed in the language of terrifying architecture. So that's that. The facade's there kind of be a deterrent to keep people out. But once you've got them in here, you want them to stay in, right? Hopefully. So that's where the escape-proof design comes in. Part of that does involve the walls. Half-mile in perimeter, only one break in them. That's still the case today. That break is the gatehouse where all of you entered.
Is there a break in?
The break in the wall. It's the only opening.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, well, the walls are pretty high. Anybody know how high they are or guess?
30 feet.
30. 30 up, 10 down. I'm sure you can all guess why that is, right? And they're also 8 feet thick at the base. So really, you're not getting anybody over or under or through them either. And any legal means of entrance and egress will be very carefully monitored through the gatehouse. But, well, you know, is that really that impressive? I guess, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about the walls, but it's expected that a prison's going to have substantial walls, right? So the more revolutionary part of the escape-proof design is what you were thinking of. That's the radial plan. That refers to the interior disposition of the cell blocks. It's illustrated on the bit of the sign over there. So, for those of you who can't see, if you're going to take an aerial view of the original prison as John Haviland finished it, what you'd see inside the walls would be like a bike wheel or a wagon wheel, but without the rim or tire. So you've got one center hub, then 7 cell blocks coming off of that like the spokes of a wheel. What that means is one guard could stand in center and, well, using technology no more advanced than his own eyes, see straight to the end of every corridor. The dictates of solitary confinement meant that inmates were never supposed to be out of their cells, so if one does manage to abscond, well, either the guard will see them right away, or else they're going to get out and then confront the big walls. And so, I guess, tough luck, right? So, that's the escape-proof design in a nutshell. And I said, the last bit we need to talk about architecturally is the cell blocks. And the most effective place to do that is in the cell blocks. Are you guys ready to head in? Yeah. Alright, we're going to turn the corner to cell block 1. It's not heated, but at least there's no wind. So follow me over this way.